Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name's Nicole and today I'm doing the Bookish Christmas wishlist tag, which I created. Never created a tag before, so this is really weird. I don't know if anybody else, I'm calling it a tag, but I don't know if anybody else would want to do this. I'm calling it a tag because it's like the question answers theme. I hope this hasn't been done before. I did do some research into it and I couldn't see anything like this. So I hope you enjoy, and if by the end you think I kind of want to give it a go, please feel free. So the first question is, pick one book, old, new, any edition that you want for Christmas. Pretty simple to start off with. The one that I have chosen is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. The edition that I mean is the gorgeous edition which very first came out. I am so bitter about this book because I didn't pick it up when it first came out, and now I really wish I had, because you can only find it for like £100 or something. Is that better? Is that a bit brighter? I hope so. I really want to read the book, but I haven't bought it for myself yet because it's almost like I'm punishing myself for not buying that edition when it came out. I'm still on the lookout for it. I really want it in my life. I keep hoping that one day it's just going to turn up, but until then, this is the book on my Christmas wish list. Question 2. If you could change an ending to any book, what would you change and why? So I struggled thinking of an answer to this one. I feel like there are probably so many that I could choose, but for some reason my brain kept going back to The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I haven't finished the series yet, but I was so underwhelmed by the ending of the first book. I think it's because I prefer it when a story is wrapped up at the end. I think for this book in particular, it was more like the author wrote the ending in a particular way, I feel like, to try and make you feel unsatisfied to pick up the next one. But for me, I am much more likely to pick up the next one if I am satisfied with the ending in the first one. The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, I think that did it really well. It wrapped up that storyline and gave you a satisfactory ending while leaving it open for the rest of it. I feel like I should choose like a different book, because I know that there have been some books which have really disappointed me at the end, but I can't think of them, and so that's the one that I'm going with. Question 3. Choose a book that you wish would have gotten a sequel, and if you're feeling creative, what would you have wanted to happen in that sequel? So what I'm choosing isn't necessarily a sequel, but more like, I suppose, a companion novel. The only one I can really think of is Spellbook of the Lost and Found by Moira Fowley Doyle. That book for me, it was like, it took me a little bit to get into it. So it's a really random choice, but there was this character called Mags, and I feel like there was more to her character than the author. Not that the author let on, because obviously she let on that there was more to that character, because I feel like there was more to that character, but we didn't find out a lot about her or her history or who she is, and I think a story based around Mags would be really interesting. I don't know exactly what would happen in the book because I don't know much about her life, but I think that's what I would want to learn. I would want to learn more about her life. Question 4. What author would you love to see write a novel, a short story, a novella, anything you want based around Christmas time? The author that I'm choosing for this is somebody that I've read from for the first time this year. She's already ended up on this list, but it is Laini Taylor. I read Daughter of Smoke and Bone this year for the first time, and the story was so stunning, but also the writing. I've heard people talk about Laini Taylor's writing for so long, and they were not wrong. Like, the way she plays with language was absolutely fascinating to me. She'd use particular words to describe something, and I never would have thought that you could describe something in that way using those words. And it was just absolutely fascinating to me, and it really drew me in, and it just made it so much more magical and whimsical. And I think Christmas time is a magical and whimsical time, and so I think it would be really interesting to see a story by Laini Taylor based around Christmas time. So yeah, that's the answer I'm going with. Question 5 is, what book do you wish to read before next year? So the book that I'm going to say is The Toy Makers by Robert Disdale. I've had this book on my shelf for so long, and it was a book that a friend recommended me, and I've been wanting to read it. I keep thinking that it'd be perfect to read it around Christmas time. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that hopefully this year. I will be really disappointed if I don't finish this book before next year. Question 6 is, what genre, which might be new to you or which you don't usually gear towards, would you want to give a chance to next year? If you say none, that's absolutely fine. See, for me, I've written myself a really awkward question because I'm quite happy trying any books. I think the only ones I don't read a lot of are probably horror, even though I do quite like horror when I do read it. Romance. I don't read a lot of romance, to be honest. It's not really my thing. I like contemporaries, but purely romance just isn't really my thing. Classics. I wouldn't mind trying a few more classics next year. Graphic novels. I don't think graphic novels are a genre, but they're definitely something which I want to try more next year because I've heard of so many good ones and I just haven't picked them up yet. I've got Saga on my shelf, but I haven't read it. Another one that I want to try, everyone keeps talking about, is Heartstopper. But yeah, I think those are like broadly what I want to try. Question 7 is, do you have any bookish regrets this year? And this could be anything. This could be maybe you didn't reach your Goodreads challenge or whatever challenge that you set yourself. It could be writing goals. Maybe you haven't written as much as you wanted to this year. It could be with Booktube, inconsistent uploads. And is this something that you still wish to pursue next year? Because I feel like goals change all the time, and sometimes if we don't hit a goal, we automatically want to try again and roll it over to the next year. But maybe actually the goal that you set yourself last year, maybe you know isn't feasible next year. Maybe you just no longer have an interest in that particular thing. Obviously 2020 has been a year for everybody, and so if we didn't hit goals, like, don't feel bad about it, don't feel guilty about it. You know, I think everyone has had their own battles this year. Everyone has their own battles every year, but this year, while we all have our own battles, we're all battling the same thing as well as. So this isn't like a you didn't hit your goals, feel bad thing. It's more of a, if you didn't hit your goals, it's fine. But like I said, is it objectively, is it still something that you want to pursue next year and the year after, or however long you want to pursue it for? So I guess mine would be, I've been very inconsistent with uploads for like the last couple of years, and you know, there are some personal reasons for that, some mental health stuff that's been going on in my life since, well, probably since forever, but primarily since about 2017 is when I started like actually getting help and stuff. So a bunch of other stuff kind of just got put on the back burner. So I would like to upload a little bit more consistently, because I try to do too much almost. I try when I'm like, okay, I want to upload, it's like, okay, well then we've got to upload like twice a week, and then we've got to upload to our blog like 3 times a week, and then we've got to socialise, and then we've got to go to work, and then we've got to actually read, and it all gets a little bit much, and I end up it just doesn't go well, because I do really enjoy this channel. It is a creative outlet, and it is fun talking to other people and discussing books and stuff like that. It is something that I want to carry on with next year, but I'm not going to put myself under a lot of pressure. Along the same lines, question 8, what is currently your biggest bookish goal for next year? This could be, again, a Goodreads goal. It could be the amount of books that you want to read. It could be the amount that you want to write. It could be based on your channel or your blog, something creative, anything bookish. I don't know. I guess it is very similar, because I have just said like inconsistent uploads and stuff. I do want to be more consistent, but I've already said that. These are very similar questions, but I feel like for a lot of people their biggest goal may not be the same as like goals that they didn't necessarily achieve this year. My biggest bookish goal, I definitely want to try and write more, but I guess it would be to read more consistently. I've hit my goal this year. I've hit my goal of 52 books. Me and a friend, we set it to 52 because we were like, oh, that would be a book a week, which it would be if I was consistent, but I'm not. I have hit the goal, but I literally, in January and February, I read 2 books. I've had months where I've read nothing, and then months where I've read everything. So I think for me, reading more consistently is probably my biggest goal for next year. Question 9 is, name 3 books that you read this year that you wish the world would read. Now, this could be any book. They could be your favourite books of the year. They could be books that you found really impactful. They could be books that you hated if you're feeling really sadistic, or if you're feeling like, even though they didn't appeal to you, they might appeal to somebody else and they did have a good message, or they did have good impact, or whatever. It's entirely up to you how you want to interpret and answer this question. The first book that I'm going to choose is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is a really random book because I hadn't read it until this year. I found it really interesting because it isn't at all what I expected. I expected like Frankenstein, scary monster, run in fear kind of thing. And there was an element of that, but there was also an element of people judged Frankenstein. They thought, he's big, he looks scary, he looks different, he's a monster. I actually found it really sad because he wasn't what people thought he was. Nobody gave him a chance, and it was just a really interesting read. The second book I would choose, do I bring it back on this list for the 3rd time? Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I think I explained it all earlier, to be honest. The way that she plays with words and the way that she plays with language. The story itself was interesting, and it's a trilogy, so I am interested in reading the next ones. But I think especially for people maybe who are interested in writing, you don't, like, obviously anybody who's interested in writing, they don't have to write in a similar way or anything like that, but I think it is really interesting in the sense that you are being exposed to this not other way of writing, but this playful and whimsical and stunning way of describing things. I think with that book in particular, it felt like every word was chosen with intent. It felt like every sentence was crafted with intent. I found it fascinating as well as beautiful, so that's another one that's going on this list. The 3rd book that I'm choosing is The Secret History, which I read recently. I think it's a really interesting book, and I think again it does something which not a lot of books do, in that it wasn't the end, but it showed you like the middle high tension type scene, and it told you at the beginning, which is very strange. It's not something that happens a lot, but I think it worked really well with the story. I also think it shows that a lot of books, I think, try to do a story where the main characters aren't very likable, and it doesn't come off very well. Whereas this book, none of the characters are good, and yet there are times throughout where, not all the time, I will say there is some stuff which you're just like, no, that's not good, but there are other times where you can sympathize with them, and the whole way through it's like they're not trying to delude themselves into thinking that they're good people, and more importantly, I think I've said this before, they're not trying to delude us into thinking that they're good people. And I just found that really interesting and fascinating, and it was a book I flew through. That would be my 3rd. And something I just want to mention, I actually really want to mention Beyond the Gates by Kayla Davenport. I read this on Kindle earlier this year. Kayla Davenport is also known as the Booktube Turtle here. She self-published her book earlier this year, and I read it and I absolutely loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed myself reading this book. I remember messaging her just like with all my thoughts, and it was a really fun book to read, but at the same time it had heavier moments and it had like hearty moments, it had soul crushing moments. So we actually follow a young girl named Emmeline Grant, or Emma Grant, and she has spent her life within the walls of the Academy. The Academy is a government-run facility which is completely secret to most of the world, and they raise and train genetically evolved children who have special abilities. Now, Emma is given a mission. Her mission is to gather information on a boy who is seen as a threat, and she needs to determine whether he is a threat and report back to the people in charge of the facility. Now, her target is a boy named Jesse. Jesse is very aware of this secret government facility. He views the people inside the facility as evil because he has a history with them, let's say. And for years and years, he has been planning his revenge. I absolutely loved this book. It was really interesting to see like all the twists and turns. There was stuff that I thought might happen that never did happen, and something even better happened, and it was really cool and it was really emotional, and I absolutely loved it. And there are characters, I know these characters belong to Kayla, but some of them are my babies now, and that's it. I will protect them with my life, okay? So just putting that out there, Kayla, if you ever watch this, do not hurt my babies. I mean, I know technically they're your babies, but I love them. So that is another book that I would recommend the world to read. And I know I said 3, but I can do what I want. Question 10, the final question on this tag. Name 3 booktube channels or blogs that you wish the whole of booktube would read or watch. The first one that I would like to mention is Kayla from the Booktube Turtle. I really enjoy her content. She's been doing a lot of content to do with writing at the moment, which I've been finding really interesting, especially her experiences with like self-publishing and how she came to that decision and the process involved with that. I really enjoy her content and I would highly recommend that you go check her out. Somebody else I would like to recommend is Elizabeth Martin. I believe on YouTube she is _Elizabeth Martin. She is a booktuber who also does body shop hauls. I really love all of her content. I think she is very funny. The books that she reads are really interesting, but also if she likes a book she will let you know, and if she doesn't like a book she doesn't slate it, but she will make a quip or a comment, and it's usually when I'm like drinking something and I end up like nearly choking with laughter. It's like she's very witty and I just really enjoy watching her videos. So she is another person that I would recommend. And the last person I'm going to recommend is Serena from A Wandering Mind. I really enjoy hearing her thoughts about the books that she reads, and I think something that all of these guys have in common is that they're people who I know from my experiences. If I've left a comment or something like that with my thoughts or anything like that, they are always down for a discussion, and I think that's really cool, and they're open to hearing like other people's points of view. I think a lot of people come onto BookTube to discuss books, and they genuinely do. You leave a comment and they will happily chat to you about those books, and you can have a proper in-depth discussion, which I think is really cool. So that's the main reason why I'm recommending everyone on this list. And that is the last question. 10 questions overall of the Bookish Christmas wishlist tag. That is hard to say and a bit of a mouthful. I'm probably not going to change it though. If anyone does this, I kind of want to see how they handle it. If you do want to do this, that would be really cool. I don't really want to tag anyone. You know, Christmas is a time where people are really busy. But yeah, if you do fancy doing this, please do, and please let me know because I would love to see your answers. I hope you've enjoyed this tag. Thank you so much for watching. I will definitely see you soon. Bye!